Hey, what's up, guys? This is Mike here. This is going to be sort of a new set of videos I'm going to do. I had a request if I would do sort of recap type videos or just a sort of broad analysis of the market. And again, if you guys are able to follow me throughout the week, you'll see that. Again, I cover a lot of things. I'm going over ideas in real time with you guys, and I enjoy that. But some of you are not able to follow all that material, and I understand that. You know, you have jobs, you have lives, you have other stuff going on. So what I'm going to try to do is once a week. Again, I haven't really decided if I'll just do it every Wednesday or every Thursday or whenever I get the chance. I'm just really going to run through the daily charts, and I'm just going to give you a really quick and broad perspective of what I would be looking at. And again, this is going to be very, very generalized. If you want more detail, more deeper analysis, that's going to be the stuff that I'm doing throughout the week on the forums, on the blogs, in the webinars. So again, it's going to be sort of a mix. So some of you are going to find this interesting and helpful, and some of you are going to stick to more of my detailed stuff. So again, I'm going to really literally go down my list here, my watch list of pairs that I watch and MetaTrader here, and give you a brief overview of what I'd be looking at. So here's the USD Swiss. Again, I'm going to stick to the daily chart for all of these. Like I said, deeper analysis we'll do week to week, day to day on the forums and blogs. So again, USD Swiss here is in a really tight range here. You can see we're sort of squeezing down, or we're just boxing here. So again, I really wouldn't be looking to do a whole lot in this sort of area here. Look towards this resistance point. Look to see if the market wants to confirm it. If we want to break higher, pull back under it as well too. This is your key resistance area here. Pound USD, again, we've sort of fallen off a cliff here. We had this big sort of flash crash, as they were calling it. Again, very much a wick bar here. So if you haven't looked at the wick material, this is very much a wick bar here. Again, your major area is here. Your major support is now here within this area. So I would be more interested to see what price does around here on a lower time frame. Euro USD, just like the Swiss, right? So again, you're just trapped in this huge ranges. Not a whole lot I would look at. This is where I would be focusing my attention, this last support area. Again, I don't want to jump around too much, but we spoke about this in the webinar too. That's that midpoint of this larger weekly box here. So this is going to be the key for this market. Is it going to hold, or is it going to break out and go under it? I like the idea of this holding as support, though. USD yen here. Okay, so again, we know a lot of pairs are ranging. We can see us stuck in a box here. Prices at this sort of last resistance point. Again, I don't put a whole lot of weight into this resistance point. It's not the most ideal for me. This is the more interesting area to me, and this is the more interesting area. These larger flips. Again, there's a flip in here. That's certainly important, but from a daily perspective, it's not as interesting as maybe sort of narrowing this down on a lower time frame. Okay, USD Canadian. So as you can see on my chart, I have a little bit of a buy here still going on. That was a gap play you can follow on the forums here. Again, the reason for that is this rising sort of wedge we're in here. I believe price wants to attack the 1.33. We still have a gap open here. So I like the idea of looking for actually sells around here after that gap closes. That's why I have a buy. Look for sells around here. Look for false breakouts around here. Great area to watch. Again, we have nice divergence into this area here. Really is sort of the most important chart I'm watching right now. Okay, Australian USD again, right? What do we see here? Big messy market here. So, when I see a market like this, it's just not that interesting to me. I'll start to look for, do we have any lines that really start to make sense? Okay, so let's watch this trend line here. Maybe next time into it, we might see a breakout, or we might see a false breakout. Again, same thing in here, right? We have sort of a support area that's sort of drifting into this big round number of 7,500. Everything in here is chop, right? Very sideways market. So if you're going to play this type of market, understand that market environment you're in. Euro pound, again, much like the pound, all the pound pairs are going to look sort of similar to this. Just sort of had that flash move. So again, similar to the pound USD, these are sort of your important areas. Here's resistance, right? In this zone here, this is your last resistance point. Everything really in here from a daily perspective is not all that interesting. It'd be more interesting to start to see if something develops in this consolidation area on a lower time frame. This is Canadian Swiss here. Again, we're seeing, we're going to see this theme over and over again of these choppy pairs here. Again, this is sort of just in a really large channel here, right? Look at every time price spikes and makes a new low, what do? We shoot higher. That's your divergence, guys. So I like the idea of looking for buys down here, right? And again, we can look for sells up here. We're sort of moving in towards that big round number and this descending trend line. Or again, we could see a breakout in this area too. So again, the boundaries of patterns are the most important to me. So that would be this boundary and this boundary. Euro yen, again, very similar to the USD yen, right? Just really sort of a sideways market. You might start to look towards, is this market sort of consolidating down, wedging down? I would want more information. Again, we do have the 115 big round number running right through this area here, which is a midpoint. So this is going to burst out soon, right? This is consolidating down to this point here, looking for those breakouts, looking for those false breakouts around this wedge is a great thing to do. But I think we need more information here. Let's see how it consolidates into those trend lines. Euro Swiss. So this is just a hot mess, guys. When I look at a chart like this, I'm not even going to spend too much time on it. Super sideways market, not interesting to me. Pound Swiss, again, back like the pound USD, Euro pound, same idea here. Pound Australian, really same idea here. You can see the big round numbers sort of capping that wick play is the boundary here, but same idea. Canadian yen, again, much like the Euro yen, right? We see just the same similar type market here. It's structured a little bit different. Again, we had this false breakout of this trend line, which we spoke about in this week's webinar. Gap to close here. So I'd expect that gap to close. Again, there's pretty strong support in this area, though, right? Support, right, turns down, turns into support again. So this is an area I'd expect a bounce possibly and see if we sort of squeeze back into that trend line or get under it. But again, not a whole lot I would do here if you weren't up in this area. Pound yen, again, very similar to the other pound pairs. Here's your major support area, right? Support, support, support. Here's your wick play we spoke about this week. We talked about in the webinar. So what I would like is, okay, either I want to use this area. So if price can pull back up and localize it, right? Bounce. The next time you can get closed back up above that area, that's a good sign to get us to that next major trouble area in here. So that's sort of what I would be watching if that materializes. Australian Canadian, again, pretty uninteresting here, pretty choppy. You know, we're at this last sort of major resistance. This is the area I would want to watch. Everything in here, again, we can define zones, support and resistance areas, and possibly use them. But I'm interested in what happens here, right? Can we break out and sustain? So look for price action for longs, or could we have a false breakout and look to reshort this area as well too? So again, just choppy markets, look towards your more major areas. It's always going to be a lot easier. Australia, New Zealand, this one's actually approaching a pretty major resistance area here. So again, very strong trend in here. We can see all that support and resistance over here. This is the area to start watching. Again, I'd like to see it localized. I'd like to understand this area better before assuming we should short here or assuming we should get long. So I'd like to see us find a boundary, put a swing in, start to understand this resistance price pivot zone area. Australian Swiss, again, look at this mess, right? So just define your boundaries. We can see that box. We can see the major resistance here, the major support here. You know, there's stuff going on in here, but it's tight area to be playing in. So again, I'm going to look towards higher here and lower here. Those are my favorite areas. They're clean, they're clear, they're much easier to understand. Australian yen, again, very much like the other yen pairs here, just sort of stuck in a range. So this is the common theme, right, guys? So got to be careful. But again, we can see us boxing here, and it's sort of sitting on a more major support and resistance area. But overall, pretty messy on this one. Swiss yen, right? Same thing. A lot of the same stuff going on here. So again, here's your major support. I'd be more interested really in us getting back down there and seeing what's under here. You can see we got close here. Not quite there, so that area becomes really interesting down here for me. Euro Canadian, oof, messy, right? Again, this is pretty messy here. You know, just don't get carried away here. You know, maybe this becomes important. Price works down here. You know, maybe this is sort of a channel we're in here and we make another move higher. not a whole lot here. I'm just not going to pick it apart and make it too interesting. If I have to pick something, it would be this type of play here. If we can eventually get back to, say, this rising trend line into this major pivot and big round number of 1.5, that becomes interesting. Euro New Zealand, again, boxing, right? We can see sort of the lower boundary of the box here. Whole lot of mess in here, but I like this support. Turns to resistance, resistance. Didn't quite get there yet. Let's see what we do here. Confirm up here again. You can see it's part of a larger support and resistance flip. So I find this interesting. And again, if we can get back down lower in here towards this big round number is interesting as well too. New Zealand yen. Again, like the other New Zealand yen pairs, it's in its own sort of interesting consolidation. You know, something like this. I don't like this rising trend line. It's not accurate enough, so I'm not very interested in it. This may materialize to become important. Maybe sells off of here. If it localizes, possibly buys. Again, look at this. Look at how tight of a range this has been stuck in. So be cautious. You know, that's sort of the theme on a lot of these pairs here. So New Zealand USD finally broke out. We spoke about this sort of head and shoulders. It actually did end up breaking out utilizing this bearish outside bar. I did not play it, but it's now materialized quite nicely here. We're now approaching sort of a larger zone of support and resistance near this 7,000 big round number down here. So this is interesting in here, right? Let's watch how price reacts in this area if we get sort of a deeper story, some good solid price action possibly for longs. Gold fell off a cliff, broke out of the consolidation range here. You know, this is sort of the most interesting area for me. If we can retest it again, you know, do we bounce off of it? Can we get back above it? That I find very interesting. Otherwise, this is the next area that I really like. We're at sort of a, you know, we're at a price pivot zone in here as well too. So this may hold. But again, the boundaries are always my favorite. Those are always the most major pivotal areas in a market. Pound Canadian, again, not going to go over that. That's like all the other pound pairs. This is the USD Singapore dollar. Again, we're at a nice little pivot here, right? Support, resistance, resistance. Time to watch for a reaction here, right? This is, again, we need more information though. You don't just jump on these because you're approaching an area. You want to see, do we localize it? Price bounces away. Do we get nice big price action, nice big pin bar or something? So definitely worth watching there. USD Norwegian. Not very interesting to me. Very, very choppy market. So this is a market that I don't find interesting. Again, we can always define our pivot zones. We can see our support turn to resistance, but not something I would be getting too interested in. This is the Swedish krona. Again, you can see us sort of breaking out here. So not a whole lot to go on based on the daily chart. Let's flip to the weekly. Again, we can see a breakout of sort of a larger sort of channel / range in here, something like that. So we're approaching a major resistance top here. So this is worth keeping an eye on. This is definitely worth keeping an eye on over here. We could be hitting that boundary up into this area. All right, guys, so there are some more pairs that I watched too, but I think this is a good sort of brief overview, and I'll try to do these 10-minute clips or so, or at least keep them around 10 minutes going forward.